Welcome everybody to the VG8 powered by this stream. This is normally the off-stream match that we'll be bringing to you, but now it'll be live on our VIS channels on YouTube, on Twitch, and on Mob Crush. You're not going to want to miss it, as everybody's pretty excited about a lot of these matchups, and unfortunately, the main channel can't get them all. But they do bring you guys this one here on the off-stream channel. My name is Dragonborn. I'm going to be your host, and also with me today, it is the Nominee. Hey man, thanks for joining me.
No problem. Thank you for having me, as always, Dragonborn. So this should be a pretty exciting lineup we got going on today.
Absolutely. This is an incredible matchup. We are going to be bringing you guys the off-stream match. It is going to be Hammers Esports. Oh, sorry, Hollywood Hammers with the name change, but it's Hammers versus Nova Esports. And Nova has been kind of that really hyped up team of late. Going into the season, they picked up a huge off-the-bench player, actually a free agent from Echo Fox in Lone Delphi to join Truth of Light and Starboy. They are looking to make a huge push here at Vainglory 8, and I'm really excited to be able to bring you guys their first stream. That being said, they are going up against a very new Hammers roster. And Day, you probably can talk most about this. What do we have in store for us going into this matchup?
Oh, well, we've got, obviously, you know, you were discussing Nova has been this really hyped up team. They've really brought their A game to a lot of their performances. And, you know, this is going to be their debut VG8 showing. So, you know, that pickup of Delphi has been huge for them. You know, we've seen that really strong Samuel pick that he had. You know, it's that we don't see a whole lot of players really pull out because it can be a difficult hero to play. Right. So we have a pretty strong roster coming out of Nova here. Maybe a little less known whether or not they're going to be able to pull together their consistency. You know, we've definitely seen them bring their A game and compete with the best. We've definitely also seen them, you know, maybe slack off a little bit and get a little over cocky, and, you know, it's cost them games too. So really strong lineup when they do bring their A game. And, you know, then we got Hammers coming in with a fairly new lineup. It is a very strong lineup from what we've seen so far. Archaic, you know, has done a really good job presenting himself as a starting jungler. And Hammers has picked up Playboy Afro for their captain position. And then, you know, starting all over, you know, you don't really have to say too much about him. Starting is just, he's that player that's been known for a long time. He can compete with the best. He can compete above the best when he's having, you know, a good day. So definitely ought to be some interesting games here. You know, Truth, incredibly mechanically skilled, maybe be able to match up starting. We'll just have to see as the day goes on.
All right, well, let's get into the draft. It started. Baron, obviously banned. Not surprising. I actually like A-Side not banning the Baron away. They actually go with the Catherine. I think that might have been to see if they could get the Baron, so Hollywood Hammers didn't bite that. But the Grumpjaw comes out, which is another hero where Catherine's going to be very, very strong against. So, actually, I think Nova off to a great start so far in the banning phase and the drafting phase here. Hollywood Hammers is going to go with the Lance. Now, Lance doesn't offer necessarily the most reliable stun as Catherine, but does offer an insane amount of crowd control.
He does indeed, and, you know, we still see this Vox on the table, which is huge that they made it through the first rounds of draft. I wouldn't be surprised if Nova bans away the Vox here, just knowing that starting all over is a very proficient Vox, and that pick is still on the table. Instead, they decide to ban away the Glaive, so I feel like we should see a Vox pick up here, and there it is. Pretty safe pick this patch. The sustain and damage that Vox is able to put out, it all just makes sense in the draft. He has mobility against the Grumpjaw. The Lance can help kind of provide him a little bit of distance. I think this is a smart pickup for Hammers so far. We'll have to see how Nova answers back, though.
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about is the Samuel pick comes out with not enough crowd control. I do like the Baptiste here to prevent Hollywood Hammers from getting that, because one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to give Hammers a lot of crowd control that can lock down that Grumpjaw. And they took away the Catherine, they took away the Glaive, and they picked up the Baptiste, so that you really, if you're on Hammer's side now, you're going for a jungler, you probably want someone who's got some kind of stun. If you can help it.
Yeah, but the Glaive has been banned away, so, you know, it's kind of unfortunate. We see the Baptiste pick, which is really good. I don't think this is going to be a Baptiste in the jungle, though. I think this is going to be a lane weapon Baptiste with Lone Delphi on the Samuel in the jungle.
Yeah, and I agree.
That's what I feel it should be. The Baptiste does have that flexible build path due to his heroic perk. It does provide you bonus weapon damage when you proc it, but it also provides 100% crystal power, so you can flex them either way. I do like the Sky into the Grumpjaw. It's going to be all about how Truth can play this Baptiste, and if they can get the lockdown on either the Sky or the Vox and take Most likely, the Grumpjaw is going to want to target the Lance because of the amount of damage that the Samuel and Baptiste are going to be able to put out. If you take the Lance out of the fight, you can take the Fountain and Crucible out of the fight, and then it leaves your laner and jungler very, very exposed on the side of Hammers at that point.
Yeah, and Lance, of course, is going to offer that crowd control, but if you can get to him, he is pretty good at blocking those Grumpjaw swallows, so, you know, you can stop him. That hungry Grumpjaw maybe tapered down just a tad, so really good, huge amount of pressure on the support here in this game as we look to get started, but... yeah, I gotta say, this is interesting composition to see Baptiste go into flex into the lane. He does a lot of damage, as we said, so that's not necessarily an awful position for him. The thing that like you mentioned is if they could get to the backline. So you've got Sky and Vox, right? And they want to get to the backline to delete that Samuel. Samuel is going to be probably the major damage output. But to see a weapon Baptiste here in the lane, it's going to be really, you know, I'm really impressed actually. Nova's going to pull this out, and I'm really excited to see how it works.
Yeah, and you know we've seen the side of Nova actually flex their position a couple times. So I was questioning it a little bit, but it does look like it's going to be actually a Roam Baptiste and a lane Grumpjaw, which is incredibly interesting coming out of the side of Nova here.
Now, weapon lane Grumpjaw, I've seen this a few times. This is something that, you know, you don't have it. I don't know if I think we've seen it penetrate the higher levels of the competitive scene, but it is a little bit tough. It's similar to going up against like a CP Finn or a lane Glaive in the sense that, you know, he has an escape. He can not afterburn, but he can jump away. And it can give him a lot of aggression. Starboy is going to be playing at Roam Baptiste, like you were mentioning, and of course Lone Delphi on this Samuel. Now, Lone Delphi on the Samuel, we've seen him play. He's really good on this hero.
Yeah, and you know, Lone Delphi definitely falls into that scenario where it's not just Samuel, it's Lone Delphi's Samuel. So huge pickup for the side of Nova there. We've seen him excel on this hero incredibly well. So it's all going to be about positioning as always with the Samuel pick. If you can keep yourself positioned around the fight, then you have a lot of potential to get a lot of damage down. And you know, we discussed earlier when we seen this out of the European game was the real big counter to Samuel in the mid game is having someone who can dive really heavy and get a lot of damage down. And we don't have that out of the side of Hammers here. So I think Delphi has a huge potential here to get a lot of damage down, you know, through all points of the game. He doesn't really have any part of the game where he's weak to a double range comp.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't take an assassin because you had a Grumpjaw and you had a Baptiste, which would have really, as we do have a player pause here just for a few seconds, that really would have thrown a wrench into their entire strategy. They wouldn't have been able to get it on. Now, I'm going to take a look real quick here to see what's going on with this player pause as we look to come in here and just get this sorted out real quick. Alright. Alright, so I think we're ready to go, so I'm going to get the unpause in place. There we go. So slight pause here. Not surprising in the early game to have some issues, but glad to see it sorted out. And we go up into the lane. Oh wait, looks like we still have some issues here where I've got another request for a pause. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but I got the confirmation to unpause it, but then, you know, in the jungle there was no movement at all.
Right, and you know, that's definitely huge that, you know, we have the pause feature for these games. You know, players are responsible for their own connection, but you know, in the competitive scenario, we can give them a little bit of an edge. We know nobody really wants to see a game where somebody disconnects and gets snowballed, so.
Absolutely.
So far, you know, not really any engagements though, which, you know, doesn't surprise me. Samuel's just hit level 2, so, you know, he's gonna be starting to think about engaging. This Roam Baptiste to me is huge though, so he hasn't put a point into anything yet, but I definitely see him putting it into that Ordained for his next point, over going 2 points into Bad Mojo, just because that limiting distance that you have when you get that Ordained target, for players, heroes like Sky and Vox, that restricted movement is huge, and you know, to me, that's what it's going to really come down to this game is if Starboy can prevent starting all over or Archaic from using their mobility to their advantage, then Nova can take this game pretty easily.
Absolutely, and it's super reliable. So if you see, like, for instance, Samuel's getting pushed on, Sky tries to reposition, you would give it a little quick Ordain, and then it locks him up and can't get back there. And then, you know, Samuel's going to be able to just lay in to whoever's trying to dive. The only downfall though to the Baptiste is, other than that Ordained, there's just not a lot of other crowd control. One of the things I'd love to see is maybe picking up some slow so he can get some slow onto them, maybe with either sugar skill. Of course, late game, you could always go with the Frostbird as well, so that your A's doing a little bit of slow as well. There's a lot of options as you get later into the game, but early game, that Ordained, that's going to be the pivotal ability to make sure that he can execute it correctly. And even games so far, though, you know, the goal's pretty even, no kills yet. Both teams taking it slow out the game.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to point out is I really actually kind of think this Grumpjaw in the lane pick makes sense. So if you think about the laners that we traditionally see, Vox is able to put a lot of pressure down even in the early game just because of that resonance bounce. But this Grumpjaw, with his living armor stacks, is able to reduce a lot of that incoming damage while healing up with the Book of Eulogies. So I actually really like this pick out of the side of Nova. It may work, it may not work. I definitely like the innovation trying to counter the Vox. It seems like not banning it. They definitely baited the Vox out. So I think this is going to be a pretty innovative lineup that we see here.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm curious to see if this is something they've practiced, because it could be something they just wish to try out. And early in the season, it's not as risky. I love looking at that. He's starting to go over, loses his mobility. He can't re-engage. And this is something I think in the lane helps the Grumpjaw immensely. Is, you know, it's not a stun that forces Starboy into the damage, where a Catherine would have to take a lot of damage to get his stun off. It actually, he can do from a distance. He can get on you, and it just gives some zoning and forces someone like Vox to just be cautious about how they try to reposition.
Right. Not only do we have the stun out of Ordained, we do also have the slow out of the
huge
Bad
amount
Mojo,
of damage coming out of Truth right now. I mean, Afro very, very weak, starting very low as well. As now they've got forced to recall. Enough minions are in place to probably prevent the turret from going down. Archaic's here as well to help ensure that this stays above half health. But, you know, you're looking right now already. The damage coming out of Nova is already starting to hit some pretty good strides. You got the Tension Bow, Truth of Light already on this Grumpjaw, and Lone Delphi's looking to build a Frostburn. I love the Frostburn. It's going to actually help because you have somewhat of a more fragile support. That's going to help slow the enemies, also slowing the engagement from like a Sky or a Vox.
Indeed, and so far it's been looking really good for the side of Nova. The Ordained is really well placed. However, starting all over, handling it really well. So if you notice, he doesn't mind taking the stun from the Ordained, but what he does is he waits until he's right at the edge and then uses his Sonic Zoom to make sure that when he does get stunned, he has as much room as he possibly can away from the stun. And it's working out pretty well for him. We haven't really seen him get locked down too much yet.
We do see a big fight breaking out, reposition alike. You do see Starboy and Truth very low, and they're being engaged, starting all over. Almost will help, but look at the damage coming out of the Grumpjaw. It's going to be a 1-for-1 trade. In the jungle, we do have the Samuel coming right back up here as Archaic is able to get away. Starting all over, almost, you know, he was at full health, and the Grumpjaw just ripped through that with a few abilities. This is something that's super scary, and why we often see Grumpjaw taken away early.
Indeed, and you know, we could call it a trade there, but really that 1-for-1 was heavily in the favor of the side of Nova because of that first blood bonus bounty. So that is additional gold that is now in Truth's pocket. We know this Grumpjaw is a fairly early game hero, so to give him a little bit of a boost on top of his early game dominance, that is huge for the side of Nova.
Alright guys, as we approach the mid game, this is a really contested match. Nova with a slight gold lead. Even in kills, no objectives really even contested at this point. Gold mine starting to fill up. Turrets all, I think, at full health here, with maybe a few little shots on the side of Hammer's turrets. But they're looking to go in this time again. Nova repositions onto the top side of the lane, but there's the hungry Grumpjaw, gets over the death from above, doesn't get stunned. Out comes Afro, but it's actually Lone Delphi dropping very low. One more shot might get it from a starting. He's not going to get the kill. Wow, Delphi's so low.
Delphi's so low, and we noticed that Drifting Dark actually just healed him enough to keep him alive there. The fountain came out of Starboy, and he continuously to drop low, but just the bonus health healing that he gets out of that Drifting Dark when all three enemies are being hit was just enough to keep him safe.
Nice Ordana starting, but there was no follow-up. Now Truth's going very low. He's going to have to disengage. Afro with a nice gifted wall to keep the positioning back. Takes a few turret shots, and so far, pretty even match. Archaic is coming in. Starboy's low on energy, so he's not going to be able to put down a lot of CC. There's a death row above. Repositioned Starboy, as Truth can't go back in just yet. Low Delphi comes up from the top. Almost gets a kill. Does. There goes down the Lance. Delphi sticking around. He just moves outside now of his Drifting Darkness, starting all over very low. Gotta watch out. Archaic is on no energy. So Nova looking to come in here. They feel like they can go in and take this turret. Oh, Archaic, he is just going to be decimated right here. They're going to bring him out of turret range. Really smart, as Archaic now needs to get out of position.
Yeah, and what's huge about that is Nova dove really hard for that engage. And Delphi took too many turret shots and actually went down, and they didn't even clean up Archaic on the sky. So that worked out really well for the side of Hammers.
Truth of Light building into crit damage as we look to keep this Grumpjaw really heavy built into the weapon side with no defense to speak of at this moment. So although he's doing a lot of damage, he's got to be careful. It's really surprising, and I guess that living armor is to speak for it, is how Hammers has just not been able to find the Grumpjaw and take him out of the fight early. Really is going to be a challenge. We do see one thing to point out on Archaic, and let's talk a little bit about that. The Sky does go Frostburn early, which is interesting because the composition from Nova doesn't really have a strong engage or disengage, other than maybe the Grumpjaw. Not sure.
Well, that's the key thing is, we've seen, Von C go this tension bow double monocle build. So I believe the idea here out of Archaic is just to be able to keep Truth maybe off of starting. That's probably going to be their primary target, knowing that this Vox, now that he has the breaking point, is going to ramp up very quickly. So I think that's really the idea out of the Frostburn, is it's to keep the Grumpjaw just out of range. He does have the gap closers, but once those gap closers are down, if he doesn't have the speed to stay up on his basic attacks, then it's going to work out really good for Hammers. But
starting just got
Delphi does find starting all over, so that is huge. Archaic does have energy and does have some health. He may be able to save out the turret here, but Nova has so much damage, it doesn't look like it, and that's actually going to be Archaic dropping as well, and the turret's going to follow suit.
One large minion stayed alive long enough to prevent that barrier from coming back up on the turret as they were able to get the kill on Archaic. Really unfortunate. It was just so close. This is going to be a turret, and now this is opening up Gold Miner as they look to push it. And Hammers, they played pretty well the first part of this game, but now they're starting to find really how dangerous this Grumpjaw combo with the Samuel is proving to be. A pretty large risk to let it go through the draft, as we saw instead. And honestly, this is because, when you're on A side, you usually can just throw out a ban that's completely away from, like, maybe the more obvious high-powered heroes to go for something to open up that draft for you. And we saw that with that Catherine ban. This gave Nova the opportunity to pick either a Baron or Grumpjaw.
Right, and it was definitely smart of them to force out that ban. They obviously knew they wanted to run this Grumpjaw, and to not ban away Vox after it wasn't picked in the second round. They banned away the Glaive and they banned away the Catherine, so that to me is huge right there. You've taken away two reliable stuns.
Nice getting wall, by the way. That might have saved
huge fight. Save starting, and we actually see Truth dropping. Good fearsome shade there out of Starboy, though.
Yeah, really good fearsome shade. Not enough to get the other kill. Hammers actually wins a trade. As they gotta be watch out for this vision that's gonna pop them up. Actually, and Low Delphi's gonna find starting. And nobody knew that vision was right there. And because of that starting recalling right next to a scout trap. If only they'd. Oftentimes you see this, the team will actually sweep through a tri-bush to make sure there's no vision. A little bit of a mistake there then by Hammers to not just be aware and cognizant of that scout trap, which obviously on the enemy side of the jungle is likely to be there.
Especially in the tri-bush of all areas, that's where you really start to have vision down in the early and mid game, because that if you can catch out them scouting out for the gold mine, or if you can catch them out before they rotate up and gank your laner, those are huge benefits that you get out of 150 gold drop there.
Yeah, Hammers actually, a lot got a kill because of it. So 3 corners, guys. You gotta check all 3 corners of those tri-bushes and the center. Because, we've seen this a lot, is once people learn a position of a scout trap that's, more consistent, they look to check that position. Sometimes we'll fail to look around the other parts of that area. But ultimately, Hammers not in an awful shape. They are behind here. The question is, Day, is this Grumpjaw going to fall off at all?
Grumpjaw does fall off as the game goes on. He doesn't really fall off as heavily, in my opinion, though. We do see Truth did miss the ult there, so this is a good opportunity for Hammers as the Drifting Dark falls. But it looks like they might be able to get it. We see Starboy getting a lot of damage down here, even though he's on this roam character. The bonus 100% crystal damage that you get when you have your perk prop is huge, and starting all over with a massive wall jump there.
Yeah, he might not get away here. The one more. Oh, he's not going to get out of here. There's the Ordain. He's trapped in it. Now he's forced to go toe-to-toe here. I don't think he's going to. The vision's just too strong for Starboy. Starboy's going to get that kill. That's an ace going over to Nova. Really unfortunate. Starboy able to come down. Really nice awareness to come down and check out the jungle, knowing that that's where the box is going to go. And for starting over, not able to reposition back.
Yeah, and the timing on the ace was just perfect for them. Only one more second and Starboy wouldn't have had the ace. So, works out well for them. They did have a minion wave that pushed. It didn't actually get the turret very much damage. But, you know, it forced Archaic to have to sit back and clear it up. Otherwise, it would have taken the turret. And that gave a free gold mine over to the side of Nova.
Free gold mine. I think they would have gotten the gold mine regardless of the ace, but it does mean that they're able to clear some of the jungle, push the lane effectively as well. So minor things that all add up. They do try to find starting all over. Caught out again. They're not going to find him. Nice movement around as he's going to pair back up with Afro. And then try to get from the top side. Truth right here in the bush. They may have found a surprise attack, but Lance, of course, so good at crowd control, is going to force Truth away from this fight. But you've also got a Crystal Sentry. This is going to mean that Nova is going to have to disengage here if they don't want to risk a potential fight going against him. Afro's really low. There's a swallow. There's no support, but starting all over. Able to back away. He's taking a lot of damage. He is able to survive. Archaic not able to get through here. Is unfortunate, but there's Sky lighting up the side of Starboy's down. Lone Delphi, he's the next, and wow, what a turn of events here. Hammers finally winning another fight here in the late game, forcing the Truth of Light. He's going to have to completely recall.
Right, you know, as this game progresses on, the Samuel and Archaic on the Sky are both going to ramp up. Delphi does have a third item completed on this Samuel, which is huge, and we don't see that yet out of Archaic, and Archaic's actually pretty ahead in Farb too, so I'm kind of curious as to where this gold discrepancy is. We do see 5 kills on Delphi, but with a 12 CS lead on the side of Archaic, it seems like we should be pretty even.
Well, the kills do rack up. Also, First Blood played a big part. You're also talking about a gold miner that went the way of Nova. So, you know, there's a little bit of an edge here, but what's surprising is it's pretty close, actually. You know, when you're down by 9-6 with a turret gone and gold miner lost, at least one gold miner, you know, being down by only 3,000 or 4,000 is not an awful position to be in. We are going to see them looking to kind of engage. Nova coming in. They're going to get this healer. Oh, Afro actually goes in. Nice stun. Able to now lay in crowd control, but it's starting all over. That's been caught out. This is the problem, but can he survive it? He is doing a ton of damage, but finally goes down. Now it's up to Archaic, but I think he's got his number. I think Nova's found the number on Archaic. They're going to find Starboy, but both carries still alive. Truth is weak. Delphi's got to be careful, but he should be able to heal right back up. There comes the Drifting Darkness. Nice death from above. It caught out Delphi.
Huge fight.
Ooh, Hammers looking to come back.
Hammers. There was incredibly well positioning there out of Archaic. He was out of vision and was able to get that forward barrage down over the wall, which was huge because he was incredibly low on health.
He was very low health, so he had to position away from the fight. Wasn't able to come in. That death from above forced Lone Delphi forward, right where that Surge Strike would land the maximum amount of damage, which is really important. So Archaic on this guy is showing everybody, even against a Baptiste, you know, really good at preventing the engagement, but when you're low on energy and you're on cooldown, you can't stop this guy from getting into the position it needs to get into to get that kill, get that ace, and this is a Kraken. So at this point, Hammers, they're going to get a turret here. They're going to even up this gold just a tad. If they only get one, though, maybe not a huge difference in the larger scheme of things.
Yeah, you know, it's still looking like it could go either way. Yes, we have this Kraken here, but Nova has been really good about most of these fights. Hammers has found a couple good ones for themselves.
Might be another one.
Getting a lot of huge damage here down that Broken Myth, scaling up so quickly. But man, that damage out of that Grumpjaw. And that's why I don't think we can really, yes, we have the Kraken marching down the lane. The fights have been looking very iffy either way, but it's definitely anybody's game still. If this Grumpjaw is able to dive the backline and find a kill early on, then I can definitely see this being a Nova game still.
Drifting Darkness is going to force Starting All Over to have to get out of there. And a lot of damage coming from those Malice and Verdicts. Samuel, as he's got those 3 tier 3 items, really is the primary person you have to watch. There's a burst out of truth, but if you can just back away and reposition, the poke from Delphi is really, I think, their biggest concern here. But they've handled it and balanced the damage pretty well. Starting All Over, his ability to reposition, you see his health bar just absolutely getting deleted, and yet he finds a way to stay in the fight long enough to put on a real hurt amount of damage. Archaic able to clean it up. So far, man, Hammers showing everybody they are not going to be this lower CT, at least in game number 1, putting up a big fight here against the hot Nova.
Yeah, and one thing about this Grumpjaw build is you get the inherent attack speed out of your B, your Hangry, so there's not any need to really build a extra damage item, and you have the double crit still out of the monocles, so there's just so much damage that comes out of this Grumpjaw, and he doesn't even have to commit to a 4th item.
This is pretty bad for Nova because you've got Starting All Over building a lot of stacks. There's the shade, but it's not going to do it. A route onto Delphi. Delphi's probably going to get a kill here. This Drifting Darkness is a lot, but not if Starting All Over has anything to say about it. Sky gets credited with the kill, but man, nice resonance coming in. Starting repositioning. He's going to take a lot of damage. Get the wall from the Lance, saving Starting All Over from that last auto attack that surely would have been his death. And Hammers, they are looking to take this game. 2 turrets lay in front of them between their chances of getting this first victory.
They do, and I don't think you credit enough to Playboy Afro. Starting All Over and Archaic really didn't do anything into that Samuel for the fact that Afro knocked him out of the Drifting Dark, so those Malice and Verdicts were not empowered. So that is a huge play out of the captain that you really have to spotlight there. That's just such awareness that you knock the Samuel out of his Drifting Dark where he's not going to get the splash damage out of the Malice and Verdicts, not get that empowered damage. That's what really saved that fight there.
I mean, dude, there's a lot of people talking about Hammers not necessarily being as strong this split, and I got to be honest, I mean, this was a very wild draft coming in from the side of Nova. They brought something very unique to the table. They felt like they could execute on it, and they played it really well early, but Hammers all around, Starting All Over and Vox, Archaic on Sky, these are comfort picks, and it just goes to show you when you're playing your comfort picks, it really can help you make that difference in overall mechanical play. Vingler's very mechanically based, and so the strategy from Nova, although impressive, just not giving them that edge when they needed it, and that's kind of unfortunate. Nova going to drop game number 1, but of course, we've got another game here. It's the best of 3, everybody. What can Nova do to get back into this? They could have taken the Baron, and actually I think it's worth mentioning, the Baron has been on such a tear. Their win rate on the Baron really high. Is that something maybe of a missed opportunity in the draft?
Well, it's kind of difficult. So you really forced Hammer's hand there by they banned the Catherine first. Right. They left a couple different power pick bans that Hammers was forced to make. Do we ban the Baron, who we know is incredibly strong? Do we ban the Vox, who we know is incredibly strong? Or do we ban the Grumpjaw, who brings so much flexibility to the table that you just don't know what to do with the rest of your draft? And that's what we saw there. That Grumpjaw first pick ended up being a lane weapon Grumpjaw, which to me, the Sky pick was key there at the end. So Sky handles really well into carry Grumpjaws in general because they don't typically build a lot of defense. You're prioritizing that early damage to really build up your early game aggression and try to snowball the game. It didn't work out, though, because when Grumpjaw was in that forward barrage from Sky, there was just no way for him to survive just because of the sheer ramp-up damage that Broken Myth provides and the slow that keeps him constantly in it as well.
Yeah. I think it's important to note that one of the advantages of having a Baptiste roam is if the Sky's trying to engage on you. But for most of that fight, it was really the Sky trying to just disengage. And Sky's really good at backing away from a fight, almost similar to Samuel. So Samuel's trying to engage. The Baptiste really isn't preventing the Sky from getting to the back line. Instead, it's really the poke from that forward barrage mixed with some repositioning. And actually, what blew my mind the most really was the fact that when that Ordain came out, you could see Hammers was just ready. In fact, both you often don't know who the Ordain's on, so all the whole team of Hammers just are actually trying to dodge away from the damage inside that little circle in the Ordain because they don't want to get stunned. And we actually did not see too many stuns coming out from that Ordain, which really is credit to Hammers just being prepared to play against the Baptiste.
Right, and the huge thing is the Sky's forward barrage range is longer than her basic attack range, so as she is kiting backwards, that Baptiste has to get in range to get that Ordain down, and while you're eating a forward barrage that has that Broken Myth and Frostburn behind it,
right,
it's going to be incredibly dangerous for you, even as the roamer. That Broken Myth damage scales up so quick with the Sky that you really have to be cautious about chasing. If you can get the heavy engage on, great, but the Baptiste does not have a gap closer where he could stay in distance.
This is absolutely true. This is true. We're going to get into the draft for game number 2, everybody, as everyone's ready, so let's get right into it. Hammers, they are on the board first. Looking to start this. Let me just make sure everyone's ready. As they are going to get a little bit of bonus time. Hammer's actually going to ban the Vox, and they're going to be applying a similar strategy that we saw Nova apply, where they're not going to ban the Baron. So Nova, respecting that Grumdrop pick, actually bans it away, which is a little surprising. This is going to give Hollywood Hammers the Baron pick. The real question is, do they choose to take it here in the first pick?
I think both TSM and Armada have shown us that first pick Baron is a real thing. You can do it. There are counters to the Baron, but there are also there's a huge potential that Baron can scale out no matter who you pick. The Catherine is one that is really good into Baron because that shield can splash a lot of damage back down on the team, but that shield's only up for so long. So Baron has his counters, but they're maybe not the most effective counters in the game.
No, absolutely here. All right, Catherine picked by Hammers. So this is interesting. They're actually looking to bait the Baron. Catherine can be strong against the Baron because all that heavy damage can get reflected, but also you can stun up the Baron from trying to jump away from a fight. But it's a little risky. Why would you not first pick the Baron in this case?
And maybe it's just the setup they want, and that is a huge respect ban coming out of the side of Nova there on that Celeste, not wanting starting all over to have that Celeste. We saw him have a huge performance. Was that last week, Dragon, or the week before against Gangstars?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really.
Huge performance. Just great positioning out of starting all over on it. So that's definitely a targeted ban since we don't see the Celeste very often get banned away. And Hammers does have this second round of bans that they do ban away the Baron. So.
Yeah, and actually this is kind of interesting because at this point, without Baron being picked, you could probably argue neither team was going to pick the Baron, but Hollywood Hammers, they're very cautious. They're like, all right, just in case Nova's tempted, let's not go against it, even with the Catherine. So, which was going to be fascinating. The Catherine really plays great into those comps that deal really large chunks of damage. I actually am kind of curious to see how it plays into a Baptiste. It's likely going to be that Crystal Jungle Baptiste that we're more accustomed to.
Yeah, and I do think Baptiste is a very strong pick this particular patch. However, I definitely don't. I think you got to be careful where you put him. So we were discussing last game that we really thought that was going to be a weapon Baptiste in the lane, and I personally would have found that to be a better lineup choice out of the side of Nova, because if that Roam Grumchaw has a lot more health, a lot more defense, he can pick up an enemy, carry them back, and when they get spit out, they can get that Ordain down. And the weapon damage that a Baptiste is able to put out when he procs his heroic perk is absolutely huge while their enemy is trapped inside of that Ordain. So you just really got to be careful where you put him. The Sky into Baptiste just works really well because he has no way to get out of forward barrage. And when you have that Frostburn on top of it, it's pretty much spells the death for Baptiste.
All right, Samuel comes out. We saw how good the Samuel was. Hammers they don't want they don't want Lone Delphi to have the Samuel, because even though they were able to defeat it, you could see it just absolutely menacing. And of course, if Nova were to get a strong enough early game advantage with a Samuel, it would be spelling a lot of trouble for Hammers. So, and they actually take the Glaive as well, and I really like this Glaive. This is likely going to be a lane Glaive played by starting. His lane Glaive is really phenomenal.
It is really phenomenal, and I do agree. I think it's going to be the lane Glaive, but depending on this next pick out of the side of Nova, I definitely think they could potentially flex it into the jungle. We could see Archaic on a weapon Glaive, and starting all over, you can run Samuel in the lane. You're just a little more energy starved because you don't have those the health treants. So definitely a little dangerous here, but the Glaive does have a heavy engage potential on this Kestrel as well.
Well, we know that Lone Delphi and Truth can play the Kestrel well, so it really allows you to flex it as a CP or weapon in jungle or lane. You know, they could go lane Baptiste like you were mentioning. This is actually a really strong draft out of Nova just as a flexing, where you could actually play into what they think Hollywood Hammers might do. That being said, when I look at overall, starting over on this lane Glaive, if he gets any kind of lead over Nova, I think he's going to carry this game away, and I think that Hollywood Hammers also with the Samuel pick of the jungle is going to be really strong. This early to mid game spike from Hammers is going to, I think, carry them over the edge to win this game. They could easily 2-0 here Nova if Nova does not play cautiously.
Yeah, I definitely, like you were saying, I definitely think this is going to be starting on the lane Glaive. It makes the most sense to me. We'll probably see the Kestrel in the lane on Truth. To me, Baptiste feels like more of a Lone Delphi hero to me. He just feels, he has that heavy aggression that we see out of Delphi so frequently, and it does look like it is going to be Delphi on Baptiste. So we are going to see a pretty interesting lane matchup here due to the range advantage that Truth has on this Kestrel over starting all over. However, Glaive has an incredibly high health pool, and he's obviously going to have that Book of Eulogies, being a melee hero going to the lane. You know, if we didn't see him pick up a Book of Eulogies, it would be a miracle. But so definitely Glaive has some potential even when he's outmatched in the lane, just because of that additional health pool and scaling health that he gets out of the Book of Eulogies and Barb Needle.
No, absolutely. No, he can definitely contest. The Kestrel, you know, if it's going to be in the lane, it looks like, you know, with Truth being on the Kestrel, it's going to be a lane Kestrel. It could definitely harass the Glaive. You know, if the Glaive can't get away from some of those gliver shots, 2 or 3 of them connect in the lane, it's going to put him a little bit behind. Starting all over, rotates all the way down. Okay, he's like, all right, there's no one rotating up to the lane, so maybe I can come down here and steal some farm, or just keeping an eye. You actually see Starboy. Look how aggressive he moves. And we see this out of Starboy a lot. He loves to take this support all the way into the enemy's tri-bush to try to just help force him to reposition. Starting all over, makes a gamble, and realizes probably not the right call. This is super risky. Yeah, he's going to have to afterburn completely away from this. Not willing to even take a chance at being deleted here right off the map the first couple minutes.
Yeah, so, you know, really aggressive here out of Starboy, and that's something that Lyra can offer in the early game. She has a lot of early game damage, whether you have the offensive items or not. But also, when you do overextend yourself a little bit like that, Truth getting punted back, and I was going to mention that earlier, is if Kestrel gets a little too close to Glaive with this Catherine, there's going to be a big stun chain. I didn't think it was going to happen that early, though. The movement that Starboy can get out of popping his Imperial Sigil doesn't put him into too much risk when he's in the jungle. So this game particularly is going to be about Playboy Afro building up a bunch of stacks and being able to stand in front of Truth and really block those glimmer shots, because, you know, yes, it's a weapon Kestrel. A lot of the damage is going to be able to be followed up with the basic attacks because it is a weapon hero, but those glimmer shots do an incredible amount of damage when you go weapon or crystal. So if you can reflect some of that damage back, that's going to be huge.
Truth takes big chunk of damage, almost drops here. Oh, but Starting finds him. There's the deletion. Starting takes a lot of damage as well. It's going to be a 1v1 trade as Archaic comes around the top. He looks to find Delphi. There's the nice placement from this Drifting Darkness. He finds a kill. It's another trade, but Starboy versus Archaic. And I think the Samuel might win that trade. So Starboy, rightly so, looking to come down here. If anything, Starboy might get lucky here. A nice sigil could potentially steal this healer away. But Truth, you better watch out. Truth's actually rotating around the other side. Does actually steal that Treant back. So Archaic doesn't get anything for it. A little unfortunate. Hammers gets a nice trade, 2-2 trade, but doesn't find anything for that trade. It's going to be, though, a pretty even gold lead, too. 3-2 in favor of Hammers. But this is what we saw.
Gold lead is in favor of Nova, though, even though we have the kill lead on the side of Hammers.
Exactly, yeah, it's just even. This game's very, very close. We actually saw this in game 1. The first 4 or 5 minutes didn't seem to make a huge difference, as Truth does glimmer shot into the bush. I think he actually was anticipating maybe somebody being there. It's a close matchup so far, and we saw this in game 1 as well. Early in these games, it's so contested, and it's just really 1 or 2 team fights once you get into the big game that seem to separate these two teams.
Yeah, and one of the big things that we're going to have to look for here is we're going to have to see how Delphi uses his Ordained on his Baptiste. I think your best case scenario is get that Ordained down on Archaic. So the thing with Glaive is, like the Vox last game, if you get towards the edge of that Ordain and use your Sonic Zoom, you can actually take the stun, but create enough distance that the enemy team is not able to follow up. Well, same concept here, except for the Afterburn is incredibly far compared to a Sonic Zoom. So even if you get the Ordain down and starting all over, he's going to be able to take himself to a safe place, which is huge. You don't even have to really block the stun if you create enough distance that the enemy team can't act on it. So keeping Archaic able, or preventing Archaic from being able to follow his Drifting Dark is going to be absolutely massive.
Absolutely. We see Nova, wow, lighting up the Baptiste here. Starboy has to disengage Delphi. Oh, sorry, that's Truth, actually. Does find a few glimmer shots, but look at the sustain coming out of starting all over. There's a fountain to boot. Starboy just squeezes that fountain in, just in case. He doesn't want to risk a single drop. It is going to be Starboy getting away from that fight. Last man standing. But huge pickup here. Now 5-2. Hammer's looking to take this game over here in the early game. And just look at the CS as well. I mean, starting all over on this Glaive. He's out CSing in the lane. He's out farming. He's got a tension bow with a lot of gold here to boot. And there's another kill he's going to get on the Starboy. Wow, though, he gets dropped all the way down.
Truth does find the kill, though. Starting took a couple turret shots there, and Truth's basic attack on this weapon, Kestrel, was able to find the kill. Little bit of silver lining there. You know, we're up 6-3, but still a very non-existent gold lead for either side right now.
Absolutely. We do see Archaic gets a lot of damage on Ordain, kind of trapped it in here. Hammers has done a great job working around these Ordains, right? They do take the damage, but they avoid the stun in some cases if they can. Especially if it forces them into a position where they could get destroyed. So really well played. You have to imagine, like, you know, if you don't have an ability like the Aftershock or the Sonic Zoom, it's hard to get away from those Ordains without putting yourself in a position to also absorb a good chunk of that damage.
Right, and that's why I discussed earlier that Archaic is really your best case scenario on the Ordain, unless if maybe, you know, it's starting all over is low enough that if he afterburns out, it'll kill him, or, you know, same kind of concept with Playboy on this Catherine. If you can get the Ordain down to get the damage if you're out of range of your actual abilities, you know, you can definitely clean up a kill with it no matter what. So in your team fights, though, Delphi's ability to kill Archaic is going to be the win condition for the side of Nova.
A little bit of chip damage onto the turret. Hammers goes in. Nice afterburn. Gets the stun. Truth gets lit up, but starting all over does too. Starting's going to drop. It's actually Nova now winning this fight here. Maybe went a little bit too deep with very little defense, really, and no shield to speak of. Starting all over's got to be a little bit more careful. They are not able to take out the turret, so when he goes in that deep, he does take a few turret shots. Brings it down even farther. Ordain comes out mostly just as a positional tool. Nova's going to come clean up that healer treant away from Hammers and finish up the farm. It's going to be a slight gold lead now, swinging back over to Nova.
Yeah, definitely really well played out of Nova there. You know, starting all over definitely stayed a little overextended, a little too long. It was allowed Delphi and Truth to find the damage to kill him, and, you know, again, the gold lead in this game is non-existent. We are at 15,500 for both sides right now. So if Delphi can really build himself up on this Baptiste, I can definitely see it going well. One thing we do see, though, is a huge fight here. Truth does get saved by Starboy. Huge play out of Starboy there.
Yeah, no, the Lyra play, you gotta get those clutch sigils, and he didn't even have to burn a fountain, which is absolutely fantastic because Afro had saved his. We see a lot of these teams, they'll actually wait to use a fountain if they haven't seen the enemy team use it. So it's really on the carries to be careful about not overextending. Obviously, a foul will come out to save you, but the fact that he was able to get the heal without utilizing the foul is really an advantage as far as the next team fight may be concerned. Hammer's now forced to rotate back down. They're actually going to see if they can spot out this gold miner here. They've got enough time. The question comes down to if Starboy has that sixth sense. There's no vision down here. They're not going to really check. There's a sigil into the tri-bush. Afro takes the one-shot, one-kill, and it's going to be a gold mine going over to Hammers. And really well played. They anticipated the fact that there might be a few more seconds before Nova would rotate down, and they were able to take the gold mine in time.
Yeah, really well played out of Playboy Afro there. He didn't have his shield up to block the damage from the one-shot, one-kill, but he's Catherine. He's tanky. He has the health and the defense to do so, and they disengage safely. So really, really well played out of Hammers here. Cleaning out a little bit of vision here as well. I'm a little interested in the jungle. Yeah, I'm a little interested about Delphi's choice to build a Frostburn first on this Baptiste, though. Baptiste Bad Mojo already has a slow on it, as well as the Ordained. You don't really get a benefit out of the slow because it's a stunning ability. You don't gain any benefit from the Frostburn. So to me, it's missing damage here out of the side of Nova.
Oh, Arcade takes one shot. Afro's staying alive. He's holding his Fallon as long as he can. He's afraid kind of to use it too soon to prevent the next fight. What this does mean, though, a little bit of extra heal. We're actually going to see Archaic go back and come back into this fight after healing up at the Sanctuary. Nova's going to try to push down, but I don't think they're going to be able to get this turret. Afro's going to come back full health. They've still got a Fallon to utilize. Afro gets really low. Oh, he's probably going to drop here. Uses the Fallon right in the nick of time. And now it keeps them in the fight. That was exactly their plan. To kind of bait them into that fight to keep the Fountain on as long as possible.
Yeah, huge triple stun there. Huge triple stun there coming out of Truth. Not really sure what was going on with that portal. We've seen Starting All Over try to use it there for a couple seconds and just couldn't find his way through, apparently. Huge chain stun there. Oh, they do find the kill on both Starting All Over and onto Delphi. That leaves just Archaic alone with both Starboy and Truth here. Unfortunately, no minions for them to really try to push this turret with so far.
Yeah, it does just save this for Hammers to prevent a turret push by getting that one kill. It's a good trade for Nova, as Archaic does a decent job dodging half those glimmer shots. But, you can see very quickly here that they're going to be able to push up this lane. They're going to be able to rotate down, take some more gold. Right now, they're leading as far as acquiring the gold advantage after this rotation. So that fight does benefit them a little bit. Oh, actually, looks like they're not even going to be able to find anything except Starting All Over. Nice stun. Starting All Over uses the reflex block, goes and gets the kill. Man, his mechanical skills here in that fight on point. Actually baits in that Castro. Truth really thought he had it. Unfortunately, not close enough. I think actually Afro burned his Fountain in the process as well.
He did, and we didn't see Starboy use his, which I think if he would have used it on Truth, Truth would have found that kill. Even with the heal coming out of Playboy Afro. So questionable call there to save the Fountain. Maybe perhaps didn't see Playboy coming down with the Fountain, thought just that Truth was going to get the kill, and by the time he noticed it was too late. A little bit of an engage coming out here. I don't think they really have the means to follow it up, though, and they don't. I'm still kind of in awe about this Baptiste build. I don't see the benefit of this Frostburn.
Nice stun here, Dane on the Afro. Afro drops really low. He saves the Fountain. Well, he's actually not even up, and actually starting to has to utilize take the one-shot, one-kill to stay alive. There comes a silence, though. Fountain comes out now. Afro, man, his patience on using his actives are so perfect, and they find the kill onto Lone Delphi. This is just really, really good synergy by Hammers after only playing together. What? This is like a fairly new roster, right, Dave? I mean, they haven't been playing together this long, and yet they're timing up their abilities so perfectly. You do see Castro utilizes the active camo, is able to get away, but it leaves open the turret. Hammers now lead in objectives, they lead in gold. And Nova, just like that, really struggling to pull together their abilities to find a win. And they've been playing a lot longer together than this Hammers roster.
They indeed have been playing a lot longer, and they don't look bad. Again, this game has been very, very back and forth all game long, 9-6. We finally have a small gold lead, but for a 13-minute game, we usually see bigger leads than this. So, to me, Nova still has a chance in this game. This Baptiste, as he starts to build up some defense, he's going to be a lot tankier. He has that healing, which scales with his crystal power. It's going to be interesting because it all falls back to me is that Delphi just doesn't have enough damage when it all comes down to it. So they're really relying on Truth to be able to ramp up with this Breaking Point Kestrel build.
Alright, yeah, I agree. It's going to be really tough until you see maybe a broken mid. He started there as he got the piercing shard. So maybe once that comes online, it's going to be a little bit closer in these teamfights because they right now in the mid game, and a very critical part of the game is the mid game. They are struggling to find those teamfights and advantages and are ultimately giving up on some golden objectives. Starting all over, though, he only has 3 tier 3 items, ultimately going for more defensive composition, which makes sense. He's going to be bruising into these fights. Definitely the defense. There's Lone Delphi getting lit up. Starting all over, gets the proc just a few active short of being able to get the kill. He's not able to make it work. Afro taking so much damage, gets away.
Oh my god. The fact that Afro got out there and still has not used his fountain. That is insane to me. Trusting his own health long enough that he does not have to burn that fountain. We already see the fountain used out of Starboy. That is a huge kill coming out.
That was nasty.
Look at Afro, so deep in here, just now burns the fountain though.
Yeah, and he's, oh my goodness, he doesn't even go down at only 20 some health. He's going to, this is going to be giving them the ace. Well played. Starting all over is going to go down here, but it's absolutely worth it. They're going to pick up an objective, maybe 2. This ace buff minion wave is going to help them push down this, possibly push down this next turret. Oh no, Kestrel's come up here, so they're going to be able to clear this out. But starting all over with this lineup of Afro and Archaic, they are being very, very decisive, and it's really a lot of just impressive mechanical play, right? When do you go in? When do you not go in? Afro here on this Catherine has been phenomenal, and it's a bit of a risk, right? Like, he could easily have died multiple times, and it all ends up working out. Truth, a little bit late on the reflex block, is going to pay for it, as one more Malice and Berg is going to do the trick. Archaic with another kill.
And another huge play out of Afro there. Truth gets that active camo down, and not even a slight hesitation. Afro drops the flare, and Archaic's able to find the kill with an empowered basic attack. 5-0 on Archaic, really showing us that, you know, Delphi, you're not the only one that can play Samuel.
Yeah, and I think so, I saw it mentioned in the chat as well, is although this team's technically new, Archaic and Afro have been playing together, I think, their entire Vainglory competitive career. They have gone for multiple rosters, and if you think about starting all over, he's that very, very OP laner. He could literally be plugged and played into any team and just play unbelievably well. He's played on multiple rosters, and he's found success in every single one of them, so no surprising that he could come into a team that's already pretty synergized with the jungler and his support, and then play very well into it.
And an aggressive jungler and an aggressive support on top of it. So that's one thing that's really key here, is this roster has been put together with 3 incredibly aggressive players that just works really well into starting's comfort zone. So I think that is huge here for the side of Hammers.
I absolutely agree. As now they're going to push down the lane. Crazy to think that a lot of these players, Delphi, Archaic, and Afro, they were actually on teams that didn't make it into the Vainglory 8. And those teams, you know, picked up, like Echo Fox Energy, they picked up here. Oh, we got to fight though. Archaic takes a lot of damage. Now Starry's going to be taking that fear. He's going to have to reposition because he's taking turret aggro. Finds the stun though, and gets, wow, the repositioning to find the Kestrel. Unbelievable. His starting almost dropped to those turrets. There's a nice fountain that was saved right at the nick of time. Of course, it is a 1v1 trade, but with a Kraken pushing for Hammers, that is definitely the trade you want.
It is indeed, and that choke point turret going down is absolutely huge. Starting getting incredible damage down on Delphi on this Baptiste. He's going to be able to heal it up a little bit because of Baptiste's perk. And because of this Shiv that we have on starting all over, he's able to clear out the Baxanova and gain a little bit of health back. So starting is going to be able to make it out. Delphi tries to find it with the Fearsome Shade and does not quite make it through. And because of this, more gold in his pocket. Still not a huge gold lead for how late we are in the game, but, you know, 4,000, you know, they're definitely showing that their synergy is overwhelming Nova right now.
Absolutely. They look to kind of clean this up. They've finally taken a substantial gold lead. It's not unreasonable for Afro. He's got another fight breaking out. Lone Delphi takes the afterburn, heals up enough thanks to the Lyra, but look at that damage coming out. Starting all over, he is just chasing. He has a mission here, but Truth of Light has come from the behind and looks to poke away. Look at that, man. He's absolutely, deleting Archaic here. He's going to watch out. Nice stun on the Ordained. Stop Starting all over from moving into position here. You see Truth of Light trying to find a kill. Finally finds one. It's now Starting all over and the support, but look at Starting. He doesn't need anybody else. He gets the kill, and this is just absolutely crazy. He's just going to be able to turn onto the Crystal Miner without a worry.
Yeah, one nice thing about the Shiv build on this Glaive is Glaive's passive health regeneration from his Blood Song actually stacks with the healing of Poison Shiv. So that gives you just a little bit more sustain in these fights, and with Glaive's high health pool, it really is a huge utility here. He doesn't require as much support from Afro to be able to sustain in fights while getting a lot of damage down. Glaive has a lot of base upfront damage that Starting all over is really using to abuse the side of Nova here.
Absolutely. I mean, this draft really was a more unconventional draft. We saw Grumpjaw or Baron left open through the first round of bans, which, either one or in each draft. And of course, this time, no team actually even tempted to take the first pick Baron, which I think just, they're either they're not as comfortable or they feel like they could be countered here, depending on how the rest of the draft would go. This leaves open the Kraken. Hammers is going to start this with plenty of room to breathe. We are going to see Nova start to rotate down to that Tribush, but you look at that, Afro's got great position, actually tries to redirect here. One shot, one kill comes out, looking to think that they're in the shop. They're not there. Instead, they are looking to take down this Kraken. Can Starboy get there in time? This is going to be contested. And Denominate, who's going to get on top? It's going to be Hammers. Now they're looking to get that. They've got a little bit of regen, but they've got to watch out because Nova, still at full health across their heroes, are dealing a ton of damage. Infusions across the board. Crystal infusions on both Starboy and Lone Delphi.
That makes the most sense to me because obviously Starboy needs the cooldowns to be able to use his healing. And look at Starting all over, pushing the enemy's base. If you notice, Nova had to all split off of the Kraken in fear that Starting was going to go get damage down on the turret before the Kraken even made it there. So
I know. I mean,
Playboy Afro is back, Archaic's back. And
nice silence.
Starboy down, but
he's not able to block these. He had a Crucible. He didn't use it. I mean, I know you want to save it, but there's a Crucible coming out there. Doesn't really block anything as the Afterburn had already come into effect. And, Starting all over, good, just baits it out.
With Truth being dead, that definitely should be game for the side of Hammers. Delphi just doesn't have enough damage with this Frostburn build. The crystal ratio that Baptiste has makes it very easy for him to abuse a Shatterglass first item because your heroic perk gives you an additional 100% damage on that bad mojo, on all of your crystal abilities actually. So you get absolutely no benefit out of going with the Frostburn first other than it saves you a little bit of gold. The bad mojo already has a slow on it. The Ordained is a stun, so if you're blocking the stun with a reflex block, you're also blocking any other negative conditions that happen at the exact same time as the stun. So you don't get any Frostburn benefit there, so it doesn't make sense to me why you'd sacrifice damage on a hero like Baptiste.
Well, guys, there you have it. The final VGA game that's not going to be on the main channel stream, but it is here on this league, comes to conclusion, and Hammers, kind of surprisingly, I think they were the underdogs, which is a surprise in itself if you consider last season. But a lot of roster changes, a lot of people had doubts, not sure how they were going to perform. And I think that they have just answered that call, at least up against Nova so far. Granted, the competition only gets thicker as we head into the rest of the VGA season. But you have to imagine right here, they have to feel great. Hammers feeling great as an organization to be able to pull out this win against the hot Nova.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that we see out of them is consistency. This roster, we've seen it in VIS Pro. They bring their A game to the table consistently, this aggressive composition that they're always able to set up. It really puts Archaic, Starting, and Playboy in their comfort zone. And in the wild drafts, really, that we've seen here out of Nova are what's questioning to me. It seems like it might work sometimes if you really put someone in a position that they don't know what you're doing, they don't know what to expect out of your draft, then I can definitely see Nova breaking some hearts and taking some games this season. But it's going to come down to their positioning and their synergy. They functioned really well on these off meta picks. If they can just bring their gameplay a little tighter together as a team, I definitely think they have a lot of room to grow.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that concludes our stream. Again, this is the VG8 powered by Vis. We'll be bringing you guys the off-stream matches for both Europe and North America every single Saturday. Make sure you tune in. All you have to do is look at the Vainglory 8 schedule, and all the matches with an asterisk labeled as off-stream, they'll be streamed live here. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Make sure you guys hit the follow button, and we guys will see you, actually, this week as we start the North America Challenger Series. It's going to be, actually, a really exciting matchup to come. I mean, all these teams, 32 teams from the Challengers looking to make a name for themselves. Actually, a lot of these players that played here today have made their way up through Challengers, maybe minus starting all over, but all of them. Nova Esports came from Challengers last season, and also Archaic and Afro have been in the Challenger Series for quite some time. So, big shout out to all of these teams here that have you really shown and proven that, yeah, there's a lot of staple competitive players in VG, but there's a lot of new ones up and coming, and it's all about tuning into the Challengers to see these rising stars take shape. With that, guys, it's going to be it for us here today. Make sure you tune in next week as well for the additional off-stream VG8 matches. We'll see you guys later. Good night.